On a distant planet, far away from Earth, the Zeltharians lived in their advanced city, bright with tall silver towers and glowing lights. The Zeltharians were a proud species, believing they were the most powerful beings in the universe. They had amazing technology and strong armies, but they had never faced anything like what was about to come. One day, while monitoring the stars and planets around them, the Zeltharian leaders gathered in their control room. A large screen displayed a flashing signal from a neighboring planet. The signal was strange, unlike anything they had seen before. It was urgent and filled with panic. Kale, the leader of the Zeltharians, frowned as he studied the message. "What is this?" Kale asked, his voice steady. "Is it a call for help?" "Yes, it appears to be," replied Atra, one of the best scientists among them. "But from whom?" "The planet is home to humans." Kale felt a mix of curiosity and caution. Humans were known as Deathworlders to many alien species, feared for their fierce nature and strong survival skills. Stories about humans filled with bravery and unpredictability echoed in the halls of the Zeltharian city. The Zeltharians had always believed that they were superior, but now a sense of unease washed over Kale. "Prepare a team. We need to investigate," he commanded. The room buzzed with activity as Zeltharians prepared their ships for departure. As the ships soared through the stars, Kale looked out the window, the vastness of space stretching before him. His mind raced with thoughts of what awaited them on the human planet. Would they find friends or enemies? He couldn't shake the feeling that this mission could change everything. When they arrived, the site was chaotic. The human colony was under attack by a fierce alien species known as the Krell. The Krell were large and terrifying, with sharp claws and bright glowing eyes. They attacked with ferocity, and humans fought back with desperate courage. Kale's heart raced as he watched the battle unfold. The Zeltharians had expected to see weakness among the humans, but instead, they were met with strength. Humans fought together, using their environment to their advantage. They threw rocks and used makeshift weapons, showing incredible bravery in the face of danger. Kale was amazed. He had never seen such determination before. "Look!" Atra shouted, pointing to a human soldier who stood his ground against a Krell. The soldier was small but fierce, dodging the alien's massive claws. With a quick move, he grabbed a piece of metal and struck the Krell, bringing it down. The other humans cheered, their spirits rising in that moment of victory. Kale felt a strange sensation in his chest. The humans weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for each other. This was more than a battle, it was a display of unity and strength. He found himself cheering for them, even though they were not his people. "Should we help them?" Atra asked, glancing at Kale with wide eyes. "They could use our technology." Kyle hesitated. He knew that their advanced weapons could turn the tide of battle, but part of him worried about intervening. Would the humans see them as friends or foes? He recalled the stories of humans being fiercely protective of their territory. What if they didn't trust the Zeltharians? Before he could answer, a loud roar interrupted his thoughts. A Krell had spotted their ship and charged towards it. Kale's heart raced. This was no longer just a mission of observation. It was a fight for survival. "Prepare for combat!" Kale shouted, rallying his crew. They had to make a choice. Stand by and watch the humans fight alone or join the battle and risk becoming targets themselves. As the Zeltharians made their decision, Kale couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change everything. The day they discovered the true nature of Deathworlders was only beginning, and he knew that fear and respect would soon intertwine in ways he had never imagined. The line between friend and foe was about to blur, and Kale felt a thrill of excitement mixed with uncertainty. As the sun set on the chaotic battlefield, the sky turned a deep shade of orange. The sound of clashing weapons and screams filled the air. The Zeltharian ship hovered above the fray, its sleek design gleaming in the fading light. Kale stood at the helm, watching the humans fight with fierce determination. His heart raced as he saw how they banded together, refusing to give up against the Krell. "Ready the weapons!" Kale ordered, his voice steady. The crew rushed to prepare the ship's advanced weapons, eager to help the humans below. They had come to assist, to show their strength, but uncertainty gnawed at Kyle's mind. Would the humans accept their help, or would they see them as intruders? Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the air. A massive Krell charged toward the human lines, its claws gleaming in the sunlight. Kale felt a surge of anger and fear for the humans. He had to act quickly. "Fire!" he shouted. The ship's cannons released a powerful blast, striking the Krell with precision. The creature roared in pain, staggering backward before collapsing to the ground. The humans looked up, momentarily stunned by the sudden explosion. Did they just attack that Krell? One human shouted, his eyes wide with surprise. Kale felt a rush of hope. Maybe the humans would see them as allies. But his hope was short-lived. Before the humans could respond, another Krell took notice of the ship. It was bigger and angrier than the first. With a deafening roar, it charged at the Zeltharian vessel, its eyes filled with rage. "Kale, we're under attack!" Atra yelled, her voice tinged with panic. The ship shook as the Krell slammed its massive body against it, trying to climb aboard. "Engage the shields!" Kale ordered. The crew scrambled to follow his command, activating the ship's defenses just in time. But in their haste, they accidentally fired a warning shot toward the humans below. The bright beam of energy shot down, landing near the human soldiers. Startled, the humans turned their weapons toward the Zeltharian ship, confusion and anger written on their faces. "Are they firing at us?" one soldier shouted, raising his weapon. "Prepare to retaliate!" Kale's heart sank. "No! They misunderstand us," he cried, but his voice was drowned out by the chaos below. The humans had mistaken their actions as an attack. "Lower the weapons!" Kale yelled again, but it was too late. A group of brave humans started firing back at the Zeltharian ship, their faces twisted with fear and anger. Kale felt a knot tighten in his stomach. This was not how it was supposed to go. He had come to help, to unite against the Krell, but now it seemed he had only deepened the divide. "Reinforce the shields!" Atra shouted as the humans' projectiles began to strike the ship. Kale felt the ship shake under the impact, and he knew they needed to stop the misunderstanding quickly. Desperate to resolve the situation, Kale activated the ship's loudspeaker. "We are here to help." "We are not your enemy," he announced, hoping the humans could hear him over the chaos. But the humans didn't seem to be listening. They were caught up in their fear and adrenaline. A young human soldier climbed onto a nearby rock to get a better shot, aiming at the ship. His face was filled with determination, but Kale could see the fear in his eyes. "Kale, we must respond!" Atra urged, worry creeping into her voice. "If we don't defend ourselves, we could lose everything." "No," Kyle shouted, his heart racing. "We cannot fight them. They are our allies." Just then, Kale noticed a familiar face among the humans. It was Sarah, the soldier he had seen earlier. She was rallying her fellow humans, urging them to listen. "Stop shooting!" she yelled, waving her arms. "They're trying to help us!" Kale felt a glimmer of hope as the humans hesitated. For a moment, the air was thick with tension. Would they stop? Would they see that the Zeltharians were on their side? As the Krell continued to attack, Kyle knew they had little time. He had to convince them before it was too late. With determination in his heart, he prepared to do whatever it took to unite against the true enemy. As the chaos of battle continued, a tense silence hung in the air. The Zeltharian ship hovered above the battlefield, its crew on high alert. Kale gripped the controls, his heart pounding. He could see Sarah, the brave human soldier, trying to calm her fellow warriors. "Listen to me," Sarah shouted, her voice carrying over the sounds of battle. "They're not our enemies. They just saved us from that Krell." Her words rang with urgency, and Kale felt a wave of hope. If the humans could understand their intentions, perhaps they could unite against the Krell. Kale turned to Atra. "We need to show them we mean no harm. Can we lower our shields?" Atra nodded, her eyes wide with concern. "But Kale, if we do that, we risk being attacked again." "We must take the chance," Kale replied, his voice firm. "If we want to work together, we must trust each other." With a deep breath, Kale pressed the button to lower the ship's shields. The energy barrier disappeared, leaving the ship vulnerable. He could only hope the humans would see their act of good faith. Meanwhile, below on the battlefield, Sarah rallied her troops. "Hold your fire! They're on our side!" she shouted again, her voice piercing through the tension. Slowly, the humans began to lower their weapons, confusion still evident on their faces. Kale watched as Sarah stepped forward, pointing toward the Zeltharian ship. "Come on! Let's hear them out!" The humans hesitated, but eventually moved closer to the Zeltharian vessel. Kale could see their faces now, fear, anger, but also curiosity. He took a deep breath, ready to speak. "Greetings, humans," he called out, his voice clear and confident. "We are the Zeltharians. We came to help you fight the Krell, but we understand there has been a misunderstanding. We do not wish to harm you." Sarah stepped closer to the edge of the battlefield, her eyes locked on Kale. "Why should we believe you?" she shouted, her tone challenging yet open. Kale felt the weight of her question. "Because we share a common enemy," he replied earnestly. "The Krell threaten both our worlds. Together, we can defeat them." A moment of silence passed as the humans processed his words. Kale could see doubt lingering in their eyes. It was clear they had been taught to be wary of outsiders, especially of beings from another planet. "What do you know about us?" a tall human soldier asked, crossing his arms. "You might think you understand, but you don't know what we've been through." Kale nodded, understanding the weight of that statement. "You are right. I have only seen your bravery in battle, but I want to learn more. I want to understand what makes you fight so fiercely." As he spoke, Sarah took a step closer. "We fight for our people, our families, and our home. We don't back down easily. We've faced dangers before." Kale felt respect grow in his heart. He had heard tales of humans, but hearing it from one directly made it real. "Your courage is admirable," he said, feeling a connection forming between them. "But we can achieve so much more together." Just then, a loud roar interrupted their conversation. Another Krell charged toward them, its eyes locked onto the humans. Panic surged through the crowd. "Get back!" Sarah shouted, her eyes wide. "They're coming for us!" Kale acted quickly. "Stay together! We will protect you!" He activated the ship's defenses, firing energy blasts at the advancing Krell. The shots struck true, causing the creature to stumble. But Kale knew it wouldn't hold them back for long. With a fierce determination, Sarah raised her weapon. "We need to fight!" she shouted, looking at her fellow soldiers. "For our home!" Kale felt his own heart race as the humans rallied around him. "Let's show them our strength!" he yelled, feeling a rush of adrenaline. Together, they charged toward the Krell. The Zeltharians provided cover fire from above while the humans attacked from the ground. As the battle raged on, Kale realized something important. In this moment, they were no longer separate species. They were allies fighting side by side. Kale learned that humans were not just fighters, they were resilient and resourceful. Their determination ignited a fire in his heart. He understood now that their strength lay not only in their weapons, but also in their spirit. As they battled together, Kale felt the fear of Deathworlders dissolve. This was a turning point, a moment of unity that could reshape their understanding of one another. Together, they were stronger than ever, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The battlefield was alive with chaos. The sounds of gunfire and roars echoed as the Krell fought fiercely against the combined forces of humans and Zeltharians. Kale stood at the helm of his ship, watching in awe as the humans displayed their bravery and determination. He felt a sense of pride swell within him. They were no longer just strangers, they were allies. "Kale! We need to regroup!" Atra shouted from the control panel. She was monitoring the situation closely. "The Krell are getting organized. We need to come up with a plan." Kale nodded, focusing his thoughts. "You're right. Let's land the ship nearby. We need to speak with the humans and strategize together." With precision, Kale guided the Zeltharian ship down onto a flat area near the battle. As the engines hummed to a stop, he opened the hatch and stepped out, his heart pounding with anticipation. He saw Sarah and her team, still holding their ground against the Krell. "Sarah!" Kale called, his voice ringing out. She turned, eyes bright with determination despite the danger surrounding them. "We need to talk," Kale urged, waving his arms to get her attention. "We can't win this fight if we don't work together." Sarah nodded, her face serious. "You're right, but we need to find a way to use both our strengths." She gestured to her fellow soldiers. "Let's get everyone together." As the humans gathered around, Kyle felt a sense of purpose. This was a moment of unity, a chance to combine their skills and knowledge. He took a deep breath and began to speak. "Thank you for trusting us," he said, looking each human in the eye. "The Krell are stronger than we expected. But together, we have a chance to defeat them. I have seen how you fight with courage. Now we need to plan our next move." A tall human named Marcus stepped forward. "We need to divide our forces. Some of us should hold the line against the Krell while others flank them from the side. We can use your ship's technology to give us an advantage." Kale nodded in agreement. "A wise plan. My ship can provide cover fire and distract the Krell while you engage them directly." Atra, listening intently, added, "We can also use our energy shields to protect you from their attacks. But we need to coordinate our movements." Sarah raised her hand. I can take a small team and move to the left side of the battlefield. We'll draw the Krell's attention while you provide cover. Then, when they're distracted, we can launch a surprise attack. Excellent, Kyle exclaimed, feeling the energy in the air. Let's move quickly before they regroup. We must catch them off guard. The group nodded, their faces set with determination. As they began to organize themselves, Kale felt a rush of excitement. This was it, a true alliance fighting for a common cause. As the humans prepared to execute their plan, Kyle and Atra took their positions on the ship. The Zeltharians readied their weapons, aiming at the Krell who were slowly advancing. Kale's heart raced. He had never fought alongside anyone like this before. On my signal, Kale shouted, watching Sarah lead her team into position. The humans stealthily moved to the left, their movements precise and practiced. Kale could see them signaling each other, their communication seamless. It was clear they had fought together many times before. Now! Sarah called, and the humans erupted into action. They charged toward the Krell, drawing their attention while Kale's ship began to fire energy blasts, creating a distraction. The Krell turned, their focus shifting to the humans rushing at them. Kale felt the adrenaline surging through him as he directed his crew to unleash a volley of firepower from above. The blasts struck the ground, sending debris flying and the Krell staggering back. Keep pushing forward, Sarah shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. The humans pressed on, their bravery igniting the spirit of battle. With each Krell they took down, Kale could see the fear in the creature's eyes. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting alongside a powerful ally. As the battle raged, Kale caught sight of Sarah. She was at the front lines, her determination shining through. He admired her courage and strength, realizing that this alliance was stronger than he had ever hoped. Look out! Atra yelled suddenly. A massive Krell charged toward Sarah and her team, its claws raised high. Without thinking, Kale activated the ship's weapons, firing a powerful blast that struck the Krell in its side. It roared in pain, falling to the ground. Now's your chance! Kale shouted. The humans seized the moment, pushing forward to deliver the final blow. Together they fought fiercely, uniting their strengths and learning from each other. As the Krell fell one by one, Kale felt a new sense of hope. They were more than allies. They were friends. In that moment, Kale understood that this was just the beginning. Together, they would face any challenge that lay ahead, and nothing could break their bond. The fear of the unknown had transformed into the strength of unity, and the day they discovered their power as allies was just the start of a new adventure. The air was thick with tension as Kale and the humans prepared for the final battle against the Krell. After hours of fierce fighting, both sides had suffered losses, but the Krell were relentless. Kale stood on the deck of his ship, staring out at the chaos below. The battlefield was a mix of smoke, fire, and the sounds of clashing weapons. Today is the day we end this, Sarah shouted, her voice carrying over the noise. She stood with her team, determination etched on her face. Kale admired her bravery. She had become a true leader among her people. Kale turned to Atra, who was monitoring their systems. We need to gather all our forces. This battle must end now, or we risk losing everything. Atra nodded, her expression serious. I'll send a signal to our remaining ships. We need their support for this final push. As Atra worked, Kyle watched Sarah rally her soldiers. We have fought together, and we have learned from one another, she called out. Today we show the Krell that we will not back down. Together we will defeat them. Cheers erupted from the human soldiers, their spirits lifted by Sarah's words. Kale felt a surge of hope and pride. They were ready to fight, and they would stand as one against their enemy. Moments later, Atra turned to Kale. Our allies are on their way. They'll be here in minutes. We need to act fast. Kale took a deep breath, his heart racing. Let's move. We need to hit the Krell hard before they realize what's coming. As Kale commanded the ship to hover closer to the battlefield, he could see the Krell regrouping. Their numbers were vast, and they seemed to sense the pressure building. The air crackled with anticipation. Now, humans! Kale shouted. Charge! With that command, Sarah led her team forward. They sprinted toward the Krell, weapons raised high. The Zeltharian ship unleashed its energy blasts, lighting up the sky with brilliant colors. The explosions scattered debris, causing confusion among the Krell. Stay together, Sarah shouted, guiding her team through the chaos. Kyle could see her bravery inspiring her fellow soldiers, pushing them forward against the overwhelming odds. As they advanced, Kyle kept an eye on the Krell commander. It was a massive creature, standing taller than the others, its eyes burning with anger. "That one!" Kyle yelled to Sarah. "If we can take out their leader, the rest will follow." "Got it!" Sarah replied, her focus sharp. She signaled to her team, and they broke into two groups. One group would distract the commander while the other aimed to attack. The humans charged toward the Krell commander, creating chaos among the ranks. Kale watched as they worked together seamlessly, their training shining through. Just as the commander turned to face them, Kale directed his ship to fire another energy blast, aiming directly at the creature. The blast hit the Krell commander hard, staggering it back. "Now!" Sarah shouted. Her team surged forward, weapons aimed at the commander. With a roar of defiance, the Krell commander fought back, swinging its massive claws. But the humans were quick and agile, darting in and out of its reach. They attacked with precision, each blow fueled by their determination to win. "Keep it distracted!" Kale shouted from above. He focused on the ship's weapons, preparing for another strike. The battle below intensified, the sound of weapons clashing echoing in his ears. Just then, Kale noticed the Zeltharian ships arriving. They descended from the sky, joining the fight with full force. Energy blasts rained down on the Krell, adding to the chaos. "Now is our chance!" Kale yelled. "We need to finish this!" With the distraction provided by the Zeltharian ships, Sarah and her team made their final push. "Together!" she cried, and they launched themselves at the Krell commander. The humans struck with everything they had, their unity making them stronger. Kale felt a rush of pride as he watched them work together. The Krell commander stumbled, overwhelmed by the combined assault. In one final effort, Sarah delivered a powerful blow, striking the creature down. The Krell commander fell with a thud, its roar silenced. A cheer erupted from both the humans and Zeltharians. The remaining Krell hesitated, fear flooding their eyes. They could see their leader defeated, and their spirits began to break. "Let's finish this," Kale shouted, feeling the adrenaline rush through him. The combined forces charged forward, driving the remaining Krell back. As the battle came to a close, Kale stood with Sarah, both of them breathing heavily. They had won, not just as individuals, but as allies. "Together we did it," Sarah said, a smile breaking across her face. "Yes," Kale replied, his heart full of hope. "This is just the beginning of our partnership." The day they discovered their strength as allies would be remembered, not just for the battle they fought, but for the bond they created. Together they had faced their fears and emerged victorious, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.